All right, well, it is 2 p.m. right on the dot, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Natalie Rhodes, and I'm the Marketing Communications Manager for the College of Arts and Sciences here at Lamar University. Today, we're having a graduate session about our master's degree in English. Our goal today is to answer your questions as they relate to being a graduate student in the Department of English and Modern Languages. Our guest today is Dr. Sanderson. He's the chair of the English and Modern Languages Department. Also joining us is Stephanie Broussard, who is the Assistant Director for Graduate Recruitment. She will be here to answer any admissions process related questions once we get to the question and answer period at the end. I just want to let you know that your video is turned off and your mics are muted to ensure your privacy. If you have questions during the session, feel free to use the chat function at the bottom of your screen. Your questions will be open, but if you want to send them directly to me, the host, you can definitely do that to keep them anonymous as well. Questions will be answered at the end of Dr. Sanderson's session, and there will be plenty of time to do question and answers. They'll either be answered by me, Dr. Sanderson, or Stephanie, but we'll do our best to answer all of your questions. We did invite a lot of students today, so some are applicants, some have already been accepted. Some are current undergraduate students, so we just want to make sure that we're fulfilling everyone's needs. So if for some reason you don't get your question answered today or anything, we'll leave our contact information in the chat for you. So lastly, we are recording this session to post on our website, and the recording will be closed captioned. So I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Dr. Sanderson.
Okay, well, I think I see some familiar names here, and so I don't know if I can add a whole lot that's new. Some of you either sent in a query about getting with the department or actually applied. And I think that I sent you a long list of what I was able to find out through Facebook and other means about what happened to our graduates. And there's a lot of names on there. Especially for our MA candidates. One of our former students was voted the best administrator in the state of Texas for a high school. You might know Gary Richard Foster. He is now my boss. He is the business director for the College of Arts and Sciences. Laura Jagno runs the LEAP program for us. Our graduates are hired all across Southeast Texas, especially to teach dual enrollment. Every year about this time, I get calls from principals, and they call us rather than the College of Education, asking for whom they might employ. They like the fact that our students have a master's degree better than they like the fact that they're certified or not. And so they want the content, they want the study, they want the background. And so we do real well with that. We've sort of discovered that we're just short of an MFA, if you're interested in that. We didn't intend to design one, chiefly because I didn't want to do that. We've had aspirations toward a future with an online or low residency MFA, which is out there. But we've had several students who were interested mainly in writing. They had jobs, they knew what they wanted to do, they were doing it, but they wanted to develop the writing. So they did indeed take almost all writing courses with us and end up with almost MFA. One of them, Grace Magnet, taught art at Port Arthur. She is now retired, but through a state organization, Texas Association of Creative Writing Teachers, she won, let's see, the graduate poetry twice, the graduate nonfiction 2 or 3 times, and the graduate fiction 3 or 4 times. Our students in creative writing, we enter them quite frequently into this contest. I've had 36 students win over the years I've been teaching. The last winners, Megan Ryan, who teaches at Westbrook, won graduate fiction and graduate nonfiction both. And so we get our student stuff out there as far as creative writing goes. I'll stick with creative writing a little bit. I don't know, some of you may have heard this before, but the Texas Institute of Letters is sort of like a sorority for writers. You got to be invited. You can't just apply. And it's been around since 1936. We have 4 members. We may soon have 5. The only other schools with 4 members are UT and Texas State. So we're well received in those circles. Our other graduate program, you have the ability, based on what you want to do, to concentrate in writing, rhetoric, or literature, or take whatever is most convenient to you. Most of our classes are at night. We're getting more and more online classes, especially this semester, not by choice, but we're trying to get at least one, I guess, flagpole online course, one 16-week, 5,000 level class that's coupled with a 4,000 level class to attract people who are trying to get the English hours to get certified at the graduate level, and to attract 2+2 community college students. And I was working with Houston Community College, Austin Community College, all over this part of Texas until COVID hit, and no one was interested in talking to me or having me drive to campus because they were dealing with other problems. But I hope to resurrect that. And I mentioned teaching. Like I said, we have teachers all over the place, but I'm constantly preaching to people that you don't need to think of English as a, quote, teaching degree, or that that's all you can do with it. At the undergraduate level, we still, from the freshman core curriculum on, we emphasize critical thinking and writing. And so we hope that that's all our graduates do. The master's degrees more or less guarantees that you have that. And so what we hope that you do, what we think you can do, and what we will try to teach you to do is to promote what you do have and to associate with other jobs, other things. And as I'll refer back to where I started, we have graduates placed everywhere, and they used what they learned in English to apply for something else. Not a one of them has ever said to me that they regret studying English. In fact, they say that's probably the key to doing what they did. Even the guy who was the railroad engineer said the degree. Even the guy who was the merchant marine and was studying literature and poetry, they all thought it was quite valuable. Do you want me to continue, or do you want to ask me some questions?
We haven't had any questions come through just yet. I do have some set aside to ask, unless you have something else you'd like to mention.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead and ask of you?
Yes, I would love for you to ask me something.
Perfect. Dr. Sanderson, what would you say makes your program different from all of the other institutions around the same size as ours, or even bigger?
I think I pretty much know a lot of the other institutions, and in all honesty, we can compete as well as anybody with places like Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston, Texas State to a certain degree. What places like UT, A&M, I'll throw Texas State out there again, North Texas can offer you are more classes. There's probably going to be more people in them, but they just can give you more things to take each semester. However, we really haven't had much problem in getting some diversity at the graduate level. So there is something for you to take. We've kind of developed an intangible attitude in that we're going to help our graduate students. We do that first through our Intro to the Profession course, which we try to get you to take right up front, which is kind of a combination etiquette and boot camp class where you write a letter of application for a non-academic job, a letter of application for an academic job, both high school and college. You design a vita, you design a resume, and then there's a brief history of the teaching of literature, the teaching of rhetoric, the teaching of creative writing, the development of composition. So you have a background in the profession, so to speak, and you have practice in doing such things. We also try to get you started on a graduate level paper. And with that said, you don't have to have a BA in English. We've had all sorts of majors. We try to insist that you take 36 hours to make up on content if you don't have a BA in English. But you can do either the 36-hour degree or the 30-hour thesis degree.
I feel like that course that you just mentioned is something that every student needs.
We want to make it, if I can get to it, we want to make it a 4,000, 5,000 level class and have it count both as undergraduate and graduate, so you can use it for 2 different degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I think the place for it is in between the BA and the MA. That transition is where it helps. It's a master's student certainly needs to know these things, and it will help a bachelor's student.
Absolutely. When I started my master's program, I mean, I thought I knew how to write well, and then I was like, ooh, my dance degree didn't prepare me for writing papers like that. Let me see. Do you have any scholarships for graduate students?
We have a bunch of scholarships. They're not real big, maybe $1,000 to $2,000, and they're both at the graduate and undergraduate level. And so those are out there. We also have teaching assistantships and graduate assistants available, which are more lucrative to folks. And actually, our graduate assistantships, I think, pay more than University of Houston or Rice, which we kind of did by accident. Still, they're exploitative. I mean, you're not going to get rich being a TA, but what you get is we pay you to train yourself. And so you start out working in our writing center as a tutor and look at various different writing. And then hopefully we hope to get you in to a class. The other thing we've done to graduate assistants, and what we may do this semester, is to let you work in the office. And you're not just answering the phone or just pointing students the right direction, but we let you loose with the software. We let you loose with the scheduling for our classes. We let you get hands-on work with the department so that you have some administrative experience and you know different software systems that are ubiquitous to all universities. And so that's another option that you have as if you're working for us.
Okay, we did have a question from John. He asked, can you speak more to the MFA possibility at Lamar? If that's something that's happening, how far are we in the process?
Well, I have schemes, and if I get off my meds, I start thinking, and that's bad for everybody. In my mind are these students out there in other cities who want to pursue writing. Austin community colleges have students with bachelor's degrees taking their creative writing classes so that they can get in an MFA. And so, well, couldn't we get some of those? Could we go online with some of that? To be an MFA, you really need 45 hours. We don't have 45 hours, but you can squeeze a lot of the creative writing into our 36 hours or our 30 hours in our thesis. For instance, we rotate an advanced poetry workshop and an advanced fiction workshop. Well, these truly are workshops where you do the writing, you turn it in, the class reviews it, and we mix it all around. And that can be done online or in person. So since it is a workshop, that class is repeatable. So you can take them, say you're here 2 years, you can take the fiction twice and the poetry twice. We urge you to take other classes just so you're more diverse and can do other things, but you can get in quite a lot of writing within however you approach it here. You could almost get what was around for years at University of Texas at El Paso. They had a master's in writing. And I know about it because they accepted me, but they didn't give me a job way back in the 70s. Uh, and let me preface this also. I'm kind of the guy who said, let's not say that our program is in creative writing. Let's say it is in writing. And so we include the grammar course. We include teaching of writing. We include technical writing. So far this spring, we're planning on teaching another class in editing. And we're going to have Katie Hurth is designing classes in editing the literary journal, editing for a press. And so we do a lot of that. I taught a course, fall of 19 in the novel. And while you wrote the first chapter of the novel, it was almost a business course. It was what the business of publishing is and has become. What do you have to do to survive in it? Who makes money, who doesn't? So it was very much a hands-on course. We also, a lot of people don't know, but we have Lamar University Literary Press. It is the only academic press that publishes solely literary works. And we have made a profit, except for the people we pay to run it. We are on the plus side. How that relates particularly to graduate students is we have an internship, and that internship, which would count as a writing course, we let you loose making a book. In other words, you get the manuscript and you use the software to make it publishable, to devise a galley. And because some other people heard about that, particularly a very desperate admin for the chief financial officer at Lamar, asked if we couldn't develop an internship for the VP of finance. And so I think that where that's going is that the financial office has a variety of policies, of regulations. All of these have to be written, and they need some help. And so we're going to try to give them some graduate students. So my approach, and going back to what distinguishes us, is that we really do say writing and art, not just creative writing, so that you have more skills in more directions and can follow up on any number of directions that you go. That's not to say that you can't focus just on creative writing. That's not to say that the people who are younger than I am and are going to take over the place aren't going to develop a low residency MFA. I'm not discluding that. I'm just saying that right now we're trying to get a broader picture. And again, back to strength, I think you can do with or make with what you want. And we take advising very seriously. And so we try to pay very careful attention and lead you into what you want to do. We might even tell you, no, don't do that because I did that and that was a disastrous mistake. And so don't be me. And so we've learned some things.
Dr. Sanderson, can you speak to on the student to faculty ratio, and are you guys hands-on with your graduate students? I mean, what are the class sizes like?
Most of our graduate classes are combination 4,000 and 5,000. And the university is desperate because of the COVID. So we might have some raised numbers. I'm waiting and working on them now. But usually about 5 graduate students and about 10 to 12 undergraduates is the limit. As someone who's taught creative writing in these workshops, much over 15 and the logistics just don't work out. I mean, it makes things difficult. And so we're aware of that. We try to keep things down to that level. We had this semester a 4,000, 5,000 level rhetoric class. I don't know why the undergraduate weren't interested, but we cut the undergraduate to keep the graduate level to focus solely on graduate students. And so we've done that in the past. So I like the mix of 4,000 and 5,000 students. Some people don't. I think it's great because you, especially in writing, you see what someone else is doing and then they see what you do. And so you have criticism and commentary that's, if you went outside of the classroom, would be terribly, terribly expensive. And so it's a place where you can go to get levels of sophisticated readers.
John's got some funny questions. His number four question was, when does he get your job?
He doesn't want my job. it's I yeah John Sarah should tell you about that. So I've got a PhD. I've published stuff so that I can spend my time at my computer counting numbers of heads in classes. And so uh, a lot of what I quote am trained or educated to do, I'm not doing. Same as those folks who went out to get the MA and went off somewhere else. So yeah, be careful what you wish for.
John, there was an article a while back in Cardinal Cadence on Dr. Sanderson and all of his published works, and there's a photo of them like lined up just in stacks. So that was a pretty cool. I'll have to try to find that again. I think it was in Cadence a few years ago.
Now that you've given me some promo, one of the people who've published me and I've come to know, he, his brother, and his friends are all New York best-selling novelists, and they're all connected with the movie and TV business, and all were showrunners. They all live in mansions. So there's them, and they make a lot of money writing. Then there's me with no money. So let's make that distinction.
Let's see. Okay, with COVID going on and things are still kind of up in the air, are any of your course offerings being affected? I know some courses will be online, hybrid, however they are, but will anything for graduate students really be affected?
I think Stephanie and I were weeping and gnashing our teeth and crying and wondering what was going to happen about June, because you keep looking at the class rolls, there's zero. And what are people doing? And now within the last 2 weeks, we are totally full on our undergraduate lower division classes. Our upper division courses have picked up and they're less full, but they're making. And then on the graduate level, they were maybe affected a little bit. And maybe we had a slight drop in the number of applicants. We need to work on that. But I really don't know that the COVID affected us that much. I'm sure there's some effect out there. And I mean, I know of 2 students who decided to sit out a semester simply because they're scared. And I don't blame them. I don't mean that as derogatory at all. But I think we can maintain the number of graduate level offerings that we have had in the past.
Also, if I can, I think with the graduate numbers, a lot of it has to do with are there a lot of students, maybe older students that may have families and they may be able to balance out the small class sizes to where they're not in there with 30 people. Also, the housing situation, a lot of our graduate students may not have to live in housing. They can commute from wherever they're coming from. We do have some graduate students in housing, but the housing situation is playing a role in the undergraduate numbers as well. And then we're also seeing a lot of students wanting to commit a lot faster on both the graduate and the undergraduate levels. So we have been pushing for them to get enrolled in classes.
Most of our graduate level courses are offered at night or during the late afternoon. We offer quite a few of our pedagogy courses, our teaching of writing and our writing for the media, which is another writing course that can be coupled with creative writing at the 3:50 to 5:10 slot, so that teachers can run from work, risk an accident or a ticket, and get into class and then get out in time for dinner.
That's so good that it's a program that working adults can do, and those who have families, and because there's so many that are during the day, and most people have real jobs during the day. So it's so nice that y'all offer those classes.
Yes, we have a mixture of people who come straight from BA to MA, and then I'd guess 50-50, and then those who return who are older. And again, I like that diversity. That's fine. She did a remarkable job. She commuted from Sugar Land
Oh my gosh.
2 nights a week. And we knew that, and we developed a couple of independent studies for it, turned something online, and we got her through here in 2 years. And she went on with her career, advanced in her teaching job.
So is it pretty common for everyone to get through in 2 years if they go consecutively?
That depends. It is definitely possible. We have 30 and 36 hours and divide it by two. If you're a TA, you're considered full time if you're taking 6 hours. Otherwise, it's 9 hours.
Right.
And what we've had, or what students have had problems with in the past, is that the thesis, we spread those 6 hours over 2 semesters. So you take 3 hours and then another 3 hours. If you don't complete it, then you have to re-sign up for a thesis. And so sometimes that thesis ends up taking you longer than you would like, and you might as well just switch to the 36-hour one. So ironically, doing the thesis can hold you up longer if you walk into that thesis and not know just exactly what you want to do, and are you confused, or you delay, or things happen.
Sure. Do you happen to have more people doing the thesis route because it is an English and writing, and that's something that they're more comfortable with?
I think here recently we've had more people do the 36-hour.
That's what I did for mine. I chose to opt out of the thesis.
There used to be an academic prejudice among PhD schools to want to do the thesis, but I don't think that's true any longer. In some ways, folks, whether it's an employer or a school district or a PhD program, like you to have the content.
I have another question. How soon can MA students expect to know whether classes make or not during COVID?
Well, I can let you know about the fall, I think, later today. I think I am looking at the fall and simultaneously making out the spring schedule. And so I'm a little bit harebrained, but I don't anticipate that we'll lose much of any graduate level classes. If something doesn't make, we can get you into something else as soon as you find out.
John, to answer your question, aside from what Dr. Sanderson said, I feel like every day is kind of something different. We're still trying to figure everything out too. Convocation is on campus right now, but it might be virtual. So there's kind of just a bunch of stuff that everyone's still trying to navigate through. So I can't imagine that there will be a class for you to take. That's for sure.
I want to dispute some notions in our society. We want emergency preparation. How do you prepare for an emergency? If you can prepare for it, it's not an emergency. So we got an emergency. There ain't no plan. We're trying to plan, but who saw that coming?
Right. Especially when everyone was on spring break and then it hit right then and they were like, don't come back.
When if you saw your computers, I think as of Friday, we're having hybrid classes. We're splitting classes in 2 and 3 groups. Some are trying to remain face-to-face. We're practicing distancing. Our furniture in our maze buildings, where we had most of our graduate classes that we spent a lot of money on to have round tables where you can't get a distance at a round table. So those are getting pushed to one corner, being changed. So there's stuff going on even as we speak to try to accommodate what has come about.
Yeah, even for our undergraduate programs, I know some of them will be, one class is going to be in the ballroom at the Setzer Center just to make sure that they're spread out enough. So I think President Evans and administration and faculty are doing everything that they can to make sure that those on campus are safe as can be. Do you know if it's common for students to use a master's in English to pursue law school?
Yes. A lot of students leave with the BA to pursue law school. Terry Davis, who was running the pre-law program here at Lamar, would require students to take some literary interpretation and to take some rhetoric courses. Now, lawyers aren't very employable, but let me tell you about a friend of mine. Jill Patterson is at Texas Tech. She developed Iron Hearth Literary Journal. She's an associate professor. She got involved with Texas legal defense, in which she looked at prisoners looking at a capital offense facing the needle. And she would interview these people and spend the time in between their conviction and their sentencing trying to get a story. And so what she did as a writer of fiction and nonfiction was to develop a narrative for these prisoners. She's now working primarily for Texas Tech's law school on, quote, legal narratives. And what she had found out is that prosecutors from wealthy areas had the money to look at legal narratives. The rural county in West Texas doesn't. And a lot of what is law school, a lot of what Terry Davis was looking for pre-law students to have, what Jill Patterson is doing is what the nature of law is doing, is who constructs the narrative. Okay. If you have the time, just one example of just touching a guy walks into this bar, goes into the restroom, they taunt him, he ends up drinking too much and kills everybody in the bar. She's charged with writing this guy's narrative. She looked at all the crime photos. She spent 6 months talking to this guy. He had just been released from prison. He was homeless. He was living in an abandoned service station. He walks into this bar and he sees a restroom and a bag of chips. The cops took pictures of all the blood, all the bodies, but they didn't take a picture of the chips in the restroom. The guy goes into the restroom, tries to take a bath, comes out, he sees the chips. They give him the chips in exchange for his father's watch and taunt him into drinking more. Well, there's the narrative that the English major fiction writer can see and not the ordinary legal team. So I'm being long-winded here, but certainly, yes, a master's degree can lead to that.
Diana asked, so it's not 100% yet confirmed that classes will be in person, correct?
98? No, not that. We still don't know. I don't think anybody, the public schools are in disarray. We could at any time go fully online. I've been told that, we could yet go fully online for the opening 2 or 3 weeks. We could go fully online in October. We could go fully online whenever. I think there are plans afoot that we won't, quote, physically return after Thanksgiving, that we will have final exams online. And again, I mean, the way things are working out. In the old days, you had to have, 45 contact hours to get class credit. Well, we're so far away from that, we don't know exactly how we're going to do that. And Lamar, the English department, isn't alone in that. I mean, everybody is doing that. They're sitting under tents at Rice. So we're just not sure.
Yeah, Diana, like I said earlier, everything's still up in the air. We're trying to make sure that there's places that everyone can be on campus and social distance. So they're going to offer classes on campus, hybrid, online. I mean, any possible way that we can still continue to run is how we're going to have it. It keeps changing daily. I know that there's talk. They're trying to find a way to, in between each course, to have someone go into each classroom and, scrub down really quickly just to make sure that everyone is safe, because we're all in the same boat with you guys too.
I'll give a shout out to David Short, our registrar, who last week, I don't know what he did or how he did it. And I'm surprised if he's not curled up into a ball crying, but he took the entire schedule in classrooms and just shifted them all. And there's going to be mistakes, and we're trying to report mistakes, but I was looking at a chart of every room on campus of what that room could safely hold through social distancing. And so I made myself a little bit fuzzy headed. I'm sure David Short is just crazy by now. So,
I bet.
and he's still working. So
I think he needs a long vacation after everything's set in stone. I had another question. I'm interested in lit crit. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure you do. What's on the horizon for this in terms of offerings?
well, lits are little critters with 6 legs, Natalie. So we
Now I got it.
we have if let me, I'm not sure I understand lit crit either. It says something about me, but we have one course called critical theory, and we probably need to develop that into more classes. If you mean just the criticism of literature, well, any of our literature classes are going to have that component to them. You're going to be critiquing and using some sort of criticism for that. We've had other classes that have approached more critical theory. Kat Starnes taught a class in Foucault online, and it was popular. We've had Amy Smith has revived a class of ours that is comparative literature. So she is looking at the Odyssey by way of Joyce's Ulysses into other literatures that are cross-cultural. So she is doing that. Sharon Jaffe is looking at pre-1800 matched with more modern literature, and she's looking at that. We've just had Joe Nardin return to the department, and he is our modernist, and so he's developing courses that are focused more toward modernism. Are you familiar with deconstruction? No? Now, whoever asked the question.
I was like, I am definitely not. He may be sending it to me personally. And it was on theory. You were correct when you started saying that.
I see John Hillen Derrida.
There we go.
Okay. Someone taught a class in Derrida. And John, since you're listening, I'll tell you a very old joke. What do you get when you cross a mafioso and a deconstructionist? An offer you can't understand. So our chief...
He laughed at it.
Our chief new theorist, Steve Zani, had left, but Adam Nimmers is working on that. There's just a whole lot to, quote, critical that we're working on. There's a pedagogical aspect to it. We have a teaching writing. We're working on getting a teaching literature course that is primarily for people at the graduate level who are going to walk into a classroom for the first time.
Well, we have one more question, and I think we'll probably stop after that one. This student she doesn't know if she'd like to do the thesis or the non-thesis route. Does that student have to decide right away? Like, do they have to know that in their first semester?
I saw Aaron pop a question up there, but I wasn't quite sure. And I know Aaron.
Oh, I see it now. It just came
I think let me see if I can answer both.
Sure.
The first one is no. In fact, because we advise very closely, I'll start out and say, well, think about what you want to do. You might decide you want the extra hours. You might have a thesis already formed up in your head. And so it's based on what you do, what you learn, how you go about it. You can switch back and forth. You can switch every minute. And then just because I saw Aaron's, I think there's a very smooth transition from undergraduate to graduate because you will know the people, you've had them before, you know what you will get. Some people say that you should go someplace different for every degree that you get. In other words, your BA, MA should be at different places. I didn't do that. I couldn't get into other places from where I got my BA, so I went with my MA. I think that that really is a good idea because you know the ropes where you're at. And so you've got 2 years more, a year and a half if you really push yourself, knowing who's who and how it works and what you want to do, and not learning a whole new system and a whole new cast of characters can get you there quicker. And then if you do decide to go on toward a PhD, I don't think that BA and MA in the same place holds you back. In fact, I think it boosts you a little bit, as it did for me, because I already had the MA and I already knew what I was doing by the time I got to that point.
Diana did have a question too. Did you see that one, Dr. Sanderson?
No, I didn't. I'm looking.
That's okay. It says, regarding the literary press, how and when can she get involved? And does she have to have a goal to publish her own work to get involved, or can you just be interested in editing?
What we like you to do is to take at least one course in creative writing. So you've got to think about, and then our grammar course. So you're going to mix the two, the creative bit, and then why do we put the comma there, but why wouldn't you put the comma there? And so we try to do that. And so we mostly like graduate students, and we give them that course. If you do the course, you get your name in the book on the copyright page. And so that gets to be a feather in your hat for when you get out of here.
Is there a rotation for grammar courses?
Ironically, our boot camp grammar course is one of the most popular courses we have. We teach it every semester. And so far, Jerry Bradley's been teaching, and he's taken it online. But we offer it every semester. And I am a proponent saying that you can teach grammar to yourself. I mean, you can hole up with a book and torture yourself and get it. But Jerry Bradley's been quite successful with this course.
Well, I think that's all the questions we have for today. Dr. Sanderson, thank you for being here and answering so many questions. Thanks to all of the those of you watching too. You all had great questions. John said, "This has been great," with a bunch of exclamations. So I had to say great with a little different tone. Stephanie, thank you for being here and putting in your information too. Did you want to mention anything before I hop off, Stephanie?
Real quick, I did want to mention something Dr. Sanderson had mentioned about getting degrees from the same institution. I'm actually someone who did that. I got all 3 of my degrees from the same institution. And I think a lot of it has to do with convenience and, like he had mentioned, knowing the environment. For me personally, like, it was convenient for me. I was working full time and going through graduate school and some of a PhD. So it was convenient for me to maneuver that around my work schedule and having different things going on. So, and then of course you kind of already know, like, I knew the whole department, so I had been there for so many years versus trying to navigate my way. And, sometimes you may go to other institutions and you think it's kind of like where you were, and then people don't, they don't have the same type of customer service that you're looking for that you had previously. So, we work really hard at LU to try to make sure that we touch every student. So for those students that are graduating from undergrad and going into this master's program or to any master's program, especially if they're on campus, I usually do try to reach out and touch those students any way I can to kind of help them through their matriculation. Speaking of students that graduate and go into their master's program here at Lamar, so if you are a student that graduated May 2020 or summer 2020, or due to graduate summer 2020, keep in mind that I'm still looking for a few more students for the continuing Cardinal scholarship. It's a $2,000 scholarship. I know we mentioned scholarships a while back, but it's a $2,000 scholarship, and it is for students that they graduated within 2 semesters. They graduated with at least a 3.0 GPA. and they have to be LU graduates going straight into their master's program, and they have to be doing campus-based programs. Even though I know everything is up in arms right now about things going online due to COVID, but the English program is a campus-based program. So students that would be interested in that program are eligible. So just keep that in mind. And I'm trying to think if there anything else. If you have any questions about how to apply, um, of course, you would start at the Apply Texas and put your application in. I believe, Dr. Sanderson, you do have some supplemental requirements that your program does require that doesn't go through the admissions office. It goes directly to you. Before you go, Natalie, can he mention those real quick?
Sure.
We like to waive the GRE because we were using it and we found that all of our graduate students were within 5 points of each other. So it wasn't really telling us much. So what we would like to see is a statement of purpose where you tell us what we can do for you. What is your intent for going here? And that's just a 1 or 2 page written statement. And then a writing sample. It can be anything. And if we know you, we'll waive the writing sample because we've already seen what you've written and probably graded it. So if you're one of ours and you want to go to graduate school, just talk to me, talk to Stephanie, just say, I mean, some of our students have a saying that they have you been to talk to Sanderson yet when he tries to sell you graduate school? And get ready. And so they prepare themselves to say no, but some say no and continue no, but some say yes. So we will get you in if that is your interest. Yes, John won Pulse Awards. There you go. There's the plus already.
But that's all I had, Natalie. Thank you, Dr. Sanderson.
You bet.
Well, the rest of you enjoy what's left of your Monday and the rest of your week. Thank you again for joining today. And we will be posting this on our website over the next week or so. So be looking out if you need to have a little recap. All right, have a good one. Thank you all.